Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us at ITC Vegas with live at ITC. I'm Christopher Frankland. I am the Global Head of Products and Innovation with CoverDesk, and I am absolutely delighted, thrilled to be joined today by Dave Tobias with Nearmap. And Dave, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Is this actually live?
I think this is live.
Oh my!
This is live television, man.
Well, now we really can't screw it up.
Live television.
Yeah.
This is at its best. Look, thank you for joining us today. You guys are working on some really cool technology, important technology, solving some really critical problems in the industry. I saw your demo earlier. It's powerful stuff. Can you share with everybody what you're doing,
Sure.
what you're working on, and maybe talk about what you demoed earlier today,
Yeah.
and kind of, yeah.
So I'm the GM of insurance for Nearmap, right? So all things product around what we're doing for the insurance industry falls into my bucket. But I was a co-founder of a company called BetterView that Nearmap acquired in December of last year. And what Nearmap's doing, which is really unique, we're capturing aerial imagery. So this manned aerial imagery, right? Not drones or satellite, but manned aerial imagery. And we actually design and manufacture the cameras. We put them on planes and we tell the planes where to fly, right? Those are, and then we process AI and analytics on it. And with the acquisition of BetterView, we have a software platform that helps insurers use that data for underwriting, for claims and cat management and pricing and everything in between. And, some of the demo that you saw today really revolved around what we've done and what we do around catastrophes.
Yeah.
And flying things like Hurricane Helene and Milton and pre-positioning planes, processing that imagery and providing AI, so damage detections, to insurers within hours of these events.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're happening more and more often. Right? We really provide tools across the whole insurance ecosystem that are, it's around property intelligence and data off of that imagery, and then that full stack all the way through from pricing, quote, all the way to claim, and all those different things in between.
Thank you for sharing that. And look, I know you mentioned some of the catastrophic events that we've seen over the past couple of months, even. I think what's interesting to me with a lot of the conversations I'm having around kind of the different pieces of this insurance ecosystem or jigsaw puzzle, if you will, so much of it is coming back to the customer, right? So much of it is coming back to, the customer experience, the customer journey, being able to underwrite more effectively, being able to, eliminate some of these challenges around underinsurance, making sure that when people file a claim, they've been covered for the right thing. Can you talk about how kind of your technology is helping carriers maybe deliver a better customer experience? How are you kind of helping them on that journey?
So, there's two sides of it, right? First, I'll talk about the post-catastrophe or post-claim experience because it's so relevant to the news over the last few weeks. We have carriers using that post-cat imagery and then the data. So, where the damage was, what was the damage, to actually proactively ACH money to insureds before the insured's even back to their home.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when you take like something as Milton, people evacuated, right?
Yeah.
They left the area. They don't even know that their home's damaged yet when we know. And then the carrier knows. So we see carriers wanting to, using this data to actually proactively reach out to insureds, right? Ahead of first notice of loss.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a customer experience thing, but it's also carriers that we work with about 200 carriers across the industry. They care deeply about, they want to pay the claim. They view it as their moral and financial, of course, responsibility to do so. They want to pay it quickly, and they want to help people get back on their feet. So that customer experience is center to all of that. But on the underwriting side, what you see is carriers using this technology to I'll highlight two things that I think are really interesting and exciting. Let's take wildfire.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you take an area, say Napa, California, and it'll say this whole area is high wildfire risk, and insurers will say, well, we can't insure that. We see carriers now looking to use this technology to say, you know what, yes, this home and this home on this street, it's just too high of a wildfire risk. Yeah. But this home in the middle, because I can see in the aerial imagery, it's got good defensible space. We actually can write that.
Yeah.
It's expanding coverage in letting them write things that they wouldn't be able to write if they were just using traditional kind of zip code census tract models. I think that's really exciting and doesn't get discussed quite as much.
Yeah.
The other thing we see people doing is using the technology to identify insureds that are proactive. And what I mean by that is, hey, you put on a new roof, you're now a better risk, right?
Yeah.
You did it because you just want to maintain your property and it needed a new roof. Well, we see carriers using our technology to preemptively go to you and say, let's lower your premium. You proactively, fixed your roof. You didn't wait for, a loss to happen and then hope we paid for it. And so I think that like positive feedback loop of using these tools to proactively, because they want to maintain the customer. Yeah. Right. And so I think those are two kind of really interesting things on the underwriting side that I'm excited about.
That's powerful. And, I was chatting with some guys from One Inc. on the payment side. And, it's what I'm finding really interesting is, the evolution of the components, right? Of you look at the insurance journey, the customer journey, and we're starting to see a lot of innovation around each of these areas, but also the ability to connect these systems, to kind of think about it as almost a smart workflow, an orchestrated workflow. I'm thinking about, when you mentioned underwriting claims, so much of what we're seeing at ITC is around AI, Gen AI technology that I personally, I feel like gives us the ability to enhance how people work. It's going to change how people work. I'm a firm believer that it won't necessarily replace people. I think it's going to change how they work. And I think your point about underwriting, it's the ability to use smart data, intelligent data to make better decisions, right? It's so now we have the ability not to just blanket say no. We can now go a little bit deeper. We can be a bit more nuanced in how we have those conversations. So kind of blabbering a bit, but how is this technology changing the role of the underwriter and the claim handler and so forth?
Well, I think, what you mentioned, a lot of times if an insurer didn't have the data to price the risk effectively, they just wouldn't quote it. They wouldn't insure it.
Yeah.
And so there's this vacuum, especially around property data, where some of the elements are really hard to get, right? It's hard to get these things. I don't go up on my roof. Yeah. Right? I don't know when the last time you were up on your roof.
It's been a while.
So most insureds don't really know a lot about the condition of the roof.
Sure.
Right? With the aerial insights that we can provide, right, you can know that. And you can be more proactive. And then insurers can price something that instead of blanket saying, we're just not going to write it, we're not going to write this area, they can write it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, insurers want to write business.
Yeah.
They want to price it appropriately to the risk. So I think this helps balance it. And AI and machine learning that we're using with it can help do that at scale.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing about what we do is, yes, there's computer vision, there's machine learning to extract data points from it.
Yeah.
But it's all based on the image.
Yes.
So if a human can't see it in the image, the computer vision can't see it.
Yeah.
There's no, I think sometimes kind of people conflate these things. There's no magic to it.
Yeah.
So it's all there in black and white, right?
Yeah.
The old adage, picture's worth a thousand words. You can see it. So if it says you have a missing shingle, you can go validate that in the image, right? Yeah. And so the computer vision helps the underwriters, claims professionals do that at scale, but it's still there in the image, right? Yeah. And so I think we think about how do we make the human superhuman. This is pretty mundane. Yeah. And the nice thing about computer vision is it's consistent. Yeah. It can be wrong to, anything. Yeah. Humans are wrong a lot. If you actually look at every human evaluates a roof, for example, differently. But the computer can be very consistent and it's explainable. Whereas if I go back and say to an underwriter, this thing that you insured 5 years ago, why'd you make the decision? You can't explain it. Yeah. So I think part of this is just education. Yeah. It's like inspection in insurance has been around forever. Yeah. I used to own an insurance inspection company. So boots on the ground, sending people to
You've been there. You've done it. Yeah.
Inspection's not new. We're just using new tools to do the same thing more effectively.
Looking around here, everything that's happening, what kind of excites you at the moment about what we're seeing? What are you optimistic about? And even if you want to bring that back towards thinking about the frequency of severe weather, catastrophic events, how can technology be used not necessarily to mitigate that, but also to just to kind of how do we do this better? If that makes sense.
So I'm going to age myself, but I grew up in the insurance. I've been in insurance literally my entire life. And when I started insurance, there were certain carriers that were known to be cat carriers. They would write in Florida or Louisiana, and those were known to be the cat carriers. Now, every insurer is a cat carrier. Yeah. Literally every state has some peril that has reached cat exposure levels, right? Could be wind and hail, could be flood, could be wildfire, right? Hurricane, everybody.
Yeah.
And that's really changed. These events, as you mentioned, have gotten more severe and more frequent.
Yeah.
Like we just got through Helene, Milton. There's another storm already brewing in the Gulf right now. And it's changed the way people have to think. So as I look at it, I'm getting excited. I see a lot more discussion around predict and prevent. Meaning, look, if you do certain things, whether it be wildfire, you maintain your property, the defensible space around your property. If you're proactive around maintaining your roof and you live in a wind zone, I don't think it's a shock to anybody that if your roof is in good condition and 100-mile-an-hour winds come through, your chance of a catastrophic loss on your home is a lot less than if you have half your roof is really missing shingles.
That's a really good point. So a question around that, right? Are you able to proactively score somebody in that way, but also not just that, be able to say, hey, if you do these certain things, you can move from this particular score to something else. Are you able to kind of create that insight?
I'll give you an example on wildfire. Like, we know where the general wildfire zones are, but that traditional risk models, I say, are kind of like the last mile or the last few miles. We're like the last foot, right? Because we have the imagery, we can see what the defensible space. So it goes even further than that. We can identify which tree, for example, you should cut down to reduce your wildfire risk by what %, right? And so I think tools like that get me excited because that's proactivity, right?
Yeah.
But to the insurers, you need to make it actionable, right? Like, okay, what do I need to do and what does that get me? And I think the technologies are starting to get there. So I see a lot more discussion around proactivity and how these things can be actually pushed to insurers and agents to support them versus, we're just going to use risk models or we're going to, look at cat exposure. And I think that's where the next sort of generation is. And that's a customer experience play, but it's also just needed. If we're going to continue to write business in Florida, in Texas, in California, we're going to have to do it in new, innovative ways. Yeah. And predict and prevent, to me, is the most powerful thing we can do. And by the way, it's not new. If I went back in my inspection days, we would go out, we'd look at a property, we'd make recommendations. We'd say, cut back this tree, or, there was debris, move the debris, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is not new. Yeah. It's just we have technology that actually can help scale this now.
That's interesting. I mean, and ultimately, the greater transparency, greater accuracy has that direct impact and positive impact on the customer experience, right? I mean, by proxy, you improve these things, creates less noise and friction during that insurance journey, and ultimately improves
it's more understandable for the insured too, right?
Yeah.
You're charging me a lot or you're not, and here's why.
Yeah.
Right?
What are some of the biggest challenges that perhaps carriers or other companies who are still catching up with a lot of this? There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of stuff is moving faster than it probably ever has. And we say that every year, but it really is this year. Yeah. What are some of those biggest challenges?
Well, I think insurers are still trying to figure out how to message, machine learning, AI to their customers. I think they're trying to figure out how to be more transparent. Yeah. Like, what do I share and when and how to drive that proactivity? And I think, that's not just the carriers. I think people like us at Nearmap, we need to help them do that, and the carriers, because we're not working with insurance, right? We're empowering carriers to work with insurance. So, we think that's partially something we need to provide, make it easy, give them the software, the tools to make that discussion with the insured, with the agent easier, right? And so I think those are challenges. How do you scale that, right? Yeah. And not just one-to-one on a one-time thing. But if I have 1 million customers, right, this needs to scale. And so I think, that hasn't caught up yet, right? Like, how do we do that? How do we message it? And how do we message AI in general to insurance?
Yeah.
Because it's complicated.
It is complicated. It can be scary as well.
It can be scary, and I think that, you need to, sometimes, like, even we get these questions and we show people the imagery and then we show them the answer. They're like, oh, now I get it.
Now they get it. Yeah.
But you have to have that level of transparency to have that discussion. And when you say, hey, insurers are using this to give, insureds better rates.
Yeah.
Because you put on a new roof or you made your, more defensible space, then people start to understand.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Time went really quickly, so it's always a good sign. One last thing. So looking forwards a year from now, coming back here, perhaps having this conversation, what's going to change? What big thing? What things are going to change in that time frame?
Well, my hope is it happens in a year, but we'll see. I think you're going to see a lot more insurance carriers giving some of the tools and technology, like aerial imagery, the AI insights on it, the risk profiles, to the insurers. Like, you're going to log into your portal at ABC Insurance to pay your bill, and you're going to see, hey, this is your home. Yeah. And here's some things we've identified. I think you're going to see a lot more transparency around that. And, I think part of that is because the technology has gotten to a point where that works.
Yeah.
I think consumers are demanding more transparency around these things. I think to write in many states, and as we establish, every state now is like a cat state of some sort or another. Yeah. You're going to need to do more predict and prevent to write insurance effectively in these areas. I think all these things are kind of coming together, fortunately or unfortunately, right? At the same time. And I think even I see regulators starting to move more quickly on establishing, well, look, we need to think differently around wildfire in California, roofing condition in Florida. And so I think a lot of this is happening very, very quickly. Yeah. And so my hope is a year from now, we're going to be sitting here talking about how insureds are now becoming risk managers of their own properties.
I love that. That's great. Look, Dave, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Again, thank you to Dave from Nearmap joining us today. Big thank you to Tint for sponsoring the session. I'm Christopher Frankland, Global Head of Product and Innovation at CoverDesk, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Cheers.